evening. This is a meeting of the Township Committee, January 22nd, 2013. Note the requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Two River Times, and posting as a Middletown Township Municipal Building, and filing with the Township Clerk on January 11th, 2013. Committee Member Stell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray? Committeeman Fiore?
Yeah, here.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Here.
Mayor Sharpenberger?
Here.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms, constitutions, and way of life. Thank you. At this time, we have certificates of appreciation, commendation for life-saving award to Patrolman Charles J. Higgins. Will you please come forward?
This is one of those instances that you really have to say, this is like a TV moment. And as somebody on the Croydon Hall Alliance who knows how folks like this can get themselves in trouble, Patrolman Higgins did one of the most heroic acts I've ever heard since my time on the committee here. Would you mind to say it so I don't butcher it and just tell the story? Would you mind? And then I'll give you the proclamation. Sure.
You said you didn't want to talk, but we're going to.
Okay, no, I don't need any details. Fantastic story.
I responded to a call for a subject not breathing or unresponsive, and I got there. The person had a pulse but was not breathing, so I assisted his breathing with a backup mask. We did that until the first day got there, and when we got there, it was over. Transported to the hospital.
Fabulous story, and you know what? Not many people get second chances in life, but thanks to Patrolman Higgins, this young man, and I hope he takes advantage of it. Got that second chance that a lot of folks didn't. And thanks for this wonderful, wonderful act of yours. We give you the Life-Saving Award. The Mayor and Township Committee recognize valuable contributions to the Township of Middletown through your skills and experience as a Middletown police officer and your life-saving actions on December 20th, 2012. You saved the life of a citizen using CPR. Thank you for your hard work and devotion to the residents of the Township of Middletown. And on behalf of myself, the Township Committee, and everybody in this room today, thank you for what you've done and what you will continue to do in the future. Thank you.
In addition to the Mayor's Award, the Police Department is awarding Officer Higgins a departmental commendation, which basically says for his life-saving achievement. On December 20th of 2012, he responded to a first aid call of an unresponsive male subject who was not breathing and experiencing a serious medical condition. Using his experience and training as a police officer, he immediately assessed the situation and began to perform rescue breathing, which directly contributed to this to the preservation of human life. And you know, one thing about Officer Higgins here, what very little people know, he is a trained EMT. He worked for Monarch before he became a policeman. So if he comes to your house to revive you, you're in pretty good hands. You can say that. He's the guy you want to see. You don't want to see me because I'm not sure I remember it all the time. But anyway, he can do a good job for you. He's done a good job for us, and we're glad to have him. It's one of the things the Township Committee does to support the police department. It allows us to hire people with the caliber of Officer Higgins. And we're going to get many more years out of him before he retires. Thank you.
Cindy called me a half hour ago, said, you got to go there for me. There we go.
Did good.
Next on tonight's agenda, we have the approval of minutes for December 3rd, 2012 executive session, December 17th, 2012 executive session, December 17th, 2012 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. Committeeman Estelle.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray. Yes. Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve minutes. At this time, we have public hearing on proposed ordinances. Our first ordinance on tonight's agenda is ordinance 2013-3075, authorizing salary ordinance amendment 2013.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3075? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Larry Stockton, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza, Middle Township. In the white book, I saw the list of the salaries on 2 or 3 pages, and I was just wondering if the amount of money cash, I assume, at the for each entry is just a salary without the benefits and the insurance.
Yeah, that's correct.
Those are base salaries.
Does it include the benefits and the insurance?
No.
And so we don't have a true picture of what these salaried individuals will be paid by the taxpayer. In other words, there's not full knowledge and full transparency. Just I'll make a comment and sit down, and whatever you wish to communicate to me or the public, you can. It's written in newspapers that almost every politician in New Jersey agrees that the cost of benefits after employment during retirement is unsustainable. This township, maybe a drop of water in an ocean, is nonetheless contributing to that. And I think the public has a right to know the full cost as far as the bursar or the CEO is able to provide that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to this? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Linda Baum, 19 May Court. A few of the individuals on the salary ordinance are township appointees, namely municipal prosecutor, township attorney, and public defender are all on this salary ordinance. And there were separate appointment resolutions for them. I'd like to know, what is the purpose of listing? Now, for all other of the appointees, there were stipend salaries, if you want to call them, listed on those appointment resolutions. And in fact, the township's attorney's fee here was also listed on the resolution, and the other two that I mentioned were not. So what is the purpose then of listing the salaries on this ordinance and not on the appointment resolution?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were listed on the resolutions as well. But I know mine was for sure.
The other two weren't.
But the other two are, and there's this distinction, because, and I'll tell you what the distinction is that while I'm on the salary ordinance, it's actually a function of a lawsuit that took place years ago, even though I'm technically not a W-2 employee, whereas the others are, I believe. And I think that is the distinction as to why mine was listed, that theirs may not have been in the resolutions, because theirs are truly dictated by the salary ordinance and not by the appointing resolutions. So, there's actually litigation that goes back years as to why that took place.
Okay, but technically these amounts could be listed on the appointment resolutions and not listed here. here. I guess what I'd like to know is,
No, they couldn't,
They
they have to list it here because they're paid through the payroll system, so they're not like consultants who submit a voucher and pay by voucher, they're paid through the payroll system. And that's by statute, the prosecutor, and public defender, and judge are treated like that.
judge on here.
Yeah, it does.
And all of the individuals that were just mentioned, are they all eligible for benefits, health, and pension?
Not everybody.
No, they're part-time.
Are
Not full-time.
They're part-time, so they are not eligible
No.
for health benefits
No.
or pension?
I can't say about pension, but not health benefits. I'm not sure about pension. That might be a grandfather thing. It might still be in the pension system from previous. But
The
they're not.
township doesn't determine that.
We don't
The
determine.
division of pension
Health
benefits.
benefits, no.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance 2013-3075? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second. Committeeman Massell. Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution, ordinance 2013-3075 on second and final reading with abstention noted. Our next ordinance on for public hearing is ordinance 2013-3076, an ordinance authorizing the lease of certain property within block 682, lot 4, as shown on the tax map of the Township of Middletown, known as Croydon Hall School building owned by the Township of Middletown, not currently required for public purposes pursuant to NJSA 48:12-14C, to Trinity Hall LLC, a not-for-profit educational institution.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3076? Yes, sir.
Theo Christoffoli again, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza, Middletown. In section 2 of this ordinance, well, first of all, I read in the Monitor, which is the Catholic Trenton Diocese newspaper. There's an article in there that says that the presiding bishop in the diocese will not allow the Trinity School to identify itself to the public as a Roman Catholic institution. That's, I think, the latest. I don't know if they endeavor to do that, then I think this governing body has to intervene somehow. In section 2, it says the money received from the Trinity School to the township is about $281,000, and it will be dedicated to the Open Space Fund. I'm not knowledgeable in this area, but typically open space money comes to governing bodies through referendums. That would be one. This is not coming through a referendum. I do understand this is a payment, not coming directly from the taxpayers, but the taxpayers do own that building. This governing body doesn't. And so I'd like to see the, I'd like to challenge the dedication of that $281,000 to open space. They should survive on a taxpayer's referendum, and sometimes those things do not have merit. Simply because, again, they do not give a full disclosure of the cost of open space bonding, because they leave out the originating costs and they leave out the interest and cash that's being paid, and the public's being snookered because there's a big cost related to the principle of bonding. So I was wondering, or I'll make a request that you carry this motion tonight, and that you, in carrying this motion, whether you do it in an executive session or in a public meeting, that you consider dedicating, if that's the right word, or handing this money over to reduce the burden of taxes on the taxpayer. I don't see that dedicating this money to open space unless you pay off the interest on the principal of the open space money that presently prevails in this township. Okay?
Okay, Leo.
Please carry the motion.
Just for your knowledge, the dedication to open spaces requirement of Green Acres, the township's preference was in fact to do what you say, but Green Acres requires that it be dedicated to the Open Space Trust Fund, just so you understand that that's not an option.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Don Watson, 1 Collinson Drive. You might want to explain to Leo that Croydon Hall was purchased with open space money. Isn't that correct? I believe so, and that's why we have to.
Well, it wasn't purchased with the way the current open space program is set up, it predates that. The old open space, Green Acres money, yes.
Okay. Now, I have a few questions because this wasn't really discussed in the public. In paragraph 3, I think it is, it says that...
Mr. Watson, just want to clarify, it was discussed publicly at previous meetings.
Which meeting was that?
In the December meeting, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out.
Great, thank you very much. It says that the building that we're going to lease out serves no currently public purpose. And from my understanding, that's where our Parks Department is located. Is that true? So it is serving a public...
Not currently required for any public purpose. You got to be careful.
So does that mean we're going to, I guess we're going to move the Parks Department out of this building so we can lease it to these, this group?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Where will the Parks Department be relocated to? So we got a month to decide on that. Because the lease starts March 1st. Okay. Now, the rent that's collected is $281,000 that Leo referred to. Is that total amount going towards public open space?
Yeah, the total amount will be dedicated to the Open Space Trust Fund, which is a requirement of Green Acres. And in addition to this rent, they're going to be making improvements to the building, which of course will inure to the benefit of the township upon the end of the leasehold.
Do you know what kind of improvements they're going to make?
There's many cosmetic improvements, some fire safety improvements, things of that nature. I'm not an engineer, but you know they've gone through that.
The main thing is the doorways have to be widened for ADA compliance, things that we would have done anyway.
So it's mostly ADA compliant?
Yeah, there's probably a lot more
A lot more cosmetic.
Okay, so I'm looking at the exhibits in the lease. And all the pages are blank. They don't list any of the improvements that they're going to make. I was just wondering about that. It also mentions in the lease, in section 4, about permits that the Trinity School will have to get to do these improvements. Are they going to have to put up like a performance bond like any other entity in town that wants to make improvements to their property?
No, most people don't have to put up performance bonds. Performance bonds only apply if you're going to make land-related improvements. They're not changing anything with land. land, just doing
Like
interior
landscaping?
landscaping or roads or driveways, things like that. That's not the case here.
Okay. And it also mentioned something about zoning reclassification. Why would we allow them to rezone this property?
There is no rezoning.
Well, it's in the lease.
This is a lease that covers, it's a general commercial type lease.
I also noticed that there were some sections that were intentionally deleted.
Yeah, because it's just things that weren't completely inapplicable. So there may be language here and there for things that, you know, but there's no zoning changes.
But
we assure that they can use it for this purpose in the lease.
But the language is in here, so the possibility is there.
There's no possibility.
If it's in the language.
The only way something has to rezone is if we pass an ordinance to rezone it. It's not happening.
Right. Okay. You think we'll know by the next meeting on where parks will be relocated?
By the end of February.
So that's it, in 2 meetings. You should
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am?
Linda Brown, 19 May Court, and I'll be pretty quick because Mr. Watson actually asked a lot of the questions that I had. He mentioned the Parks Department. If it's the building I'm thinking, I think the signs of recreation, social services, and health department are in that building.
Yes.
Is that correct? And this lease begins March 1st. And we don't have any idea at this point. It's only about 5 to 6 weeks away. We don't have
We
any
have some
idea.
idea. I don't think it's not been a decision made yet.
What are some of the ideas as to where they will go?
Not ready to talk.
Okay, and that's going to be the next meeting.
Well, by the end of February, we'll have to have a new home for those apartments.
Okay, and also, just one other comment. In the ordinance, it mentions 30 months, but in the lease agreement, it actually mentions that the term of the lease is going to run from 2013 through 2021, which is 8 years. Is that accurate? Is it 8 years? And why is 30 months pointed out in the resolutions?
What section are you looking at?
I think it was in the lease exhibit. It was in one of the exhibits to the lease.
It's 30 months, so I don't know what draft, but you may have had.
Well, most of the exhibits, as Mr. Watson, were not filled in. This is one that was.
Yeah, it's
stand out
probably,
to
you may have an earlier draft or something, you could have, I imagine that may be a typo or something, but I don't know what you're looking at specifically.
So it's just 30 months?
30 months, yeah.
Did they have the option to extend?
If you look at the section, it says years 1 through 2.5, it says under the Article 2 rental for 30 months. So I don't know what you're looking at there.
It's in one of the exhibits, not the actual ordinance.
Okay.
Green Acres actually has a regulation that sets it at 30 months.
And are do they have an option to extend?
You can,
Yeah, they can.
after 30 months, you can request, I think it's a
They can
6-month
request.
extension you can request for one time, but you have to wait till you get to the first 30
So
months.
it's temporary.
Yes, it is.
And they're doing all those repairs just for it to be there for 30 months?
They don't have, they're actually only going to, I mean, the 30 months is just that they have time, it's actually 2 school years, if you will. The 30 months is so that they can get in and make improvements before the school year starts in September.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3076? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, we'll close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second. Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 2013-3076 on second and final reading. The next ordinance for public hearing, 2013-3077.
Are there any members of the public? Oh, sorry.
An ordinance authorizing developers agreement and conveyance of township-owned parcel for affordable housing on block 869, lot 71.01, Unity Road.
Hello, Russ. That's a good idea. If you don't mind explaining it for the folks.
Yeah, just to clarify for everyone, this is as you know, the township owns some lots along Unity Road, which in years past had been proposed to possibly develop the site. with affordable housing units. We kind of got away from that idea and ultimately decided we were going to just sell the lots, auction them off. One of the lots, though, we're proposing to turn over to a organization called Housing United Services for the purposes of developing a home, a single family home for visually impaired adults, and that's the purpose of this. It's referred to as affordable housing. The reason is because the township, supportive housing like this actually enables the town to receive credit from the Council on Affordable Housing or from the state against this affordable housing obligation, but it's not an affordable housing development as typically one would think of, where you're building houses or rental units for qualified low and moderate income households. This is a single family house. One single family house is being provided for people with developmental disabilities, in this case being blind adults, and that's the purpose of this action you're taking tonight.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3077? Seeing no members of the public?
No.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
You have to go one at a time.
Coming one at a time.
Good evening. My name is Nancy McKnight, 109 Birchwood Lane. I am here as part of the 18 families which represent the Gillville Lane, Birchwood Lane, and Unity Court community. Currently, the township is proposing an ordinance which would allow the building of affordable type housing units classified for blind or disabled adults who qualify as very low income. The responsible owner entity is not yet named, but to be named at a future date, and this is to be a 4-bedroom unit. It is very important to note that the community that we call our home is a very small community. In a town the size of Middletown that spans almost 60,000 square miles and has reported 24,000 households, we sit on just 8,000 square feet and share 18 homes. It is not hard to see how we became a very tight community. This is why we stand here before you today, together, against what you are trying to do. You're trying to bring down our homes, ruin our homes without any thought of our families and our community. This community already has its share of problems. We have an ongoing drug problem, a litter problem brought on by those coming in and out to buy these illegal substances. The left behind items have included everything from fast food garbage to blunt wrappers and marijuana roaches, and yes, even used condoms. We also have an animal control problem, and recently we had a pedophile issue. As a community, we have and continue to fight these issues head-on our own, because we get no help from any of you or other community officials. These issues are a danger to our families. They bring down our property values, and yes, they affect our quality of life. Yet many calls to township officials have gone unanswered. Now tell me, if Middletown officials cannot handle the problems currently taking place within this community, how is adding more high-risk housing to the area going to make the situation better? Along with the above issues, which greatly affect our families and our quality of life, what about the building code issues? Our roads are very narrow, allowing for only one car to travel down the road at a time. You are looking to build up to 4 multi-family homes in an area that cannot take traffic. Yes, I know tonight we are speaking about one home, but let's be honest, there are 4 lots there, and in the future we will be talking about them. Let's be honest for once here. We will be talking about all the lots.
What is this being honest for once, ma'am?
Because we've been lied to before.
I mean, I served as mayor for 2 years, never received one call from you about any issue in your neighborhood. Never once. I don't know, I'd love to know who they were, Because I've now heard 3 times how this governing body has failed you. Never once.
Are you familiar with our drug problem?
Ma'am, never once has my office, I'm not sure of the township administrator of his office, I'm not sure from the township committee if any member of the township committee has ever heard of any issue, drug charges. Maybe you're dealing with the police, I don't get in the middle of police issues, but to make those statements, let's be fair.
Okay, well, let me finish my letter. There's other things in here, okay? I'm sure you are familiar with the Avaya Four Pond Center in Lincroft. Now, there was an ordinance that if passed would have brought 68 low-income housing units into Middletown. This site has 2 access sites, plenty of parking, and did not have to be constructed. The main complaint of the people was the traffic. I'm sure this would have brought many, many credits towards Middletown's housing requirements. However, the board unanimously denied the application. In the words of Lincroft residents, good job, Lincroft. Tell me, board, are you currently looking at any open lots in Lincroft to put this type of housing facility? A housing facility for those of very low income, multi-family houses for those of very low income, where there are now only single-family houses. I couldn't find any ordinance posted. Actually, while doing my research, I found something very interesting. Do you know what steering is? Steering is defined as illegally funneling all residents to a particular area based on a desire to keep the makeup of the neighborhood the same or intentionally changing it. The very unfortunate practice did occur here in Middletown as late as the 80s. In this time, racial steering was being practiced, and if you were a black family looking for a home in the Middletown area, you were brought to a few chosen areas where the other black families were. One area was Gilville Lane, one area was Magnolia Lane, and the other area was Hillside of Middletown. Well, when I was doing my research, what I found was an ordinance, one for Gilville Lane, one for Magnolia Lane, where they're going to put a house for battered women, and now Hillside, they're going to put one of these, another one of these houses. Okay? This goes against the Fair Housing Act. Yes, you're steering again.
So you're accusing us of discriminating?
I'm accusing you of, again, putting these places in the same areas.
Ma'am, when you talk about these places, this ordinance is specifically one house for the blind or disabled. So I'm having a difficult time understanding when you went through all the ramifications of these types of units, that you're really talking about units in much, much larger combinations, and it's not very specific to this ordinance. So the comments that we're looking for are specific to this ordinance, and again, talk about one house for blind or disabled. So I'm trying to understand how you're making that connection for me to make a good assessment of your comments.
Can you guarantee us this house will always be a house for blind people?
There are 2 guarantees in life. One is death and the other is taxes.
That's exactly, that is our point.
So what I'm asking, what I'm trying to understand here is your comments in relation to the specific ordinance and the specificity of the fact that this is for blind or disabled for this one location. So, you know, when we vote on things, we listen to all the comments and we try to make that connection about what you're saying in the specific ordinance, and I'm not getting it. So that's what I need to understand from it. Because you're talking about things that are global, and you're not talking about things that are specific to this application.
What we're trying to say is...
So if you make it more specific, that'd be great. That's what
And while we have a second, I just want to point out what you're referring to, you know, about low-income housing is COA. And that's a quota that's forced on the towns by the courts in Trenton. This is not something that we like. This is not something that we... Hold on, please, do not yell out. This is going to be on tape. I don't want... Everybody has their chance to speak. I just want to point out that this is something that is forced on the towns. And we must accommodate it. Otherwise, we leave ourselves open to build.
Put it all in the same spot?
Just let me finish, okay? We have to accommodate the quota. Otherwise, we leave ourselves open to builders' remedy lawsuits, which pretty much says that developers can come in and do anything they want. Now, the state did a GIS study of all the open spaces in the state that could possibly physically accommodate this housing. So we can't say to the state, gee, we have no room for it, we don't have this. This is a quota, and we've done our best to try and distribute it around the town, every part of town, including my own. I have 2 big developments looming right next to me. So this has been going on a long time. Every part of town feels that they get a disproportionate amount of this.
Right there of every affordable unit or proposals on their sites, so you can see that it's not just in one location in this town, which is a very unfair.
False. It's
Unfair.
false.
And one other thing. Middletown has been at the forefront of fighting these quotas. We now have a lawsuit going forward before the Supreme Court. So we've been very active. I don't recall if I ever spoke to you, but I had asked the township to please weigh in and call the legislators and ask them to overturn these laws that we're bound by. I don't recall, did you ever reach out to me and offer to help reach your legislator? Because they're the folks who are ramming these quotas down our throats here. And we have no choice but to abide.
2-mile space between that methadone clinic and Sears, you're going to have 5 areas that are going to be these type of units. 5. Okay, because you're going to have the bathroom women's clinic. All right, do you understand why are there so many right within one area?
You can't select, hold on, you can't select the township. This is where I think there's a little bit of misconception. The township doesn't propose affordable housing units. The township doesn't make the development of affordable housing units. We don't decide to say, hey, we'd like to make affordable housing on Taylor Lane, or hey, we'd like to make affordable housing on Havaya, or in your neighborhood. You have to have an applicant who, by land use law, has the right to put an application in to develop a development. Now, under these COA laws, as the mayor correctly states, under the laws, they have, to build a certain number under, of units based on the amount of production they want to have. Now, ultimately, the state, through its infinite wisdom and the wonderful legislature and former governor that passed additional third-round rules, crammed a quota into Middletown, which is an unrealistic quota, and said, Middletown, you need to actually find people who are, if people are willing to develop these properties, you have to put them in a housing plan. So we didn't go to Avaya and say, build COA units here for us. They came and said, we want to develop this property, and we want to be part of the affordable housing plan under the rules of COA and TRED. We didn't go to Taylor Lane and say, hey, Taylor Lane, we want to build COA units. They decided they wanted to, there was an owner that wanted to develop their property, and they decided they wanted to be in a housing plan. We actually fought some developments who wanted to be in with massive size properties. Bam Hollow is the perfect example of a 280-acre property that wanted to cram 1,586 affordable units in. So the township doesn't develop affordable housing. We are not the developers of affordable housing. It's a landowner who ultimately has the right to develop their property under New Jersey land use, unless I'm wrong, Mr. Nelson or Mr. Senabrino is on the planning board. They have to be willing to do a development, and then the state, unfortunately, makes us comply with these quotas. So it is it's false, as Mr. Nelson states, to think that the township predicates where these COA units are going to go. I mean, a developer is ultimately the one who wants to sell their property and develop. I stand against all of them. However, as the mayor says, you fall into a situation where if you don't put them in a plan, or you try to be too restrictive, where courts just give either additional permits, or you lose complete control, and they build a block, they find a lot next to your house, or in any neighborhood, and they have complete carte blanche and do whatever the heck they want. That's what we try to avoid at all costs.
So if you put these homes in here, okay, then how do you, as I said, we're on a street that's extremely narrow, all right? Then how are you going, we have no drainage, we have no lights, we have dirt roads. What are you going to do for these people, for their safety?
Well, that's something before the planning board. So those are
planning.
Okay.
This is getting way afield here.
Yeah.
First of all,
pass the buck.
There are 4 lots, so there can be 4 houses. Okay, not apartments, not multiple units, 4 houses.
And why was the
Hold
board
on,
change the building?
wait, I didn't interrupt you once, so
Okay.
let me finish, okay? 4 houses. The road will get paved, there'll be a turnaround created at the end of the road to make it safe. Understand something about homes such as this. This is what's called a group home under the law, okay? This one happens to be for visually impaired adults. But under the law, they're to be treated, and this is, you're talking about discrimination, you're talking about, you know, directing things to particular neighborhoods where I suggest before you make claims like that, you better be able to back it up. But under the law, they're allowed to be in any single-family house anywhere in this township today. So if somebody decided to buy a house next door to you, or your house, and use it for this purpose, they would be able to do it. They wouldn't come in and ask for anyone's permission to do it. They're absolutely entitled to do it under the law. Why? Because if you did have to ask for permission, people would discriminate. People would say, no, I don't want it near me. I don't want it in my neighborhood. So the law has taken that away from you. Okay? They've taken that away from towns. If you create a single-family house for this type of purpose, it's allowed by law. So nothing is being done here that's not completely in conformance with the law for the sole purpose of not being discriminatory. So that's exactly why this is allowed.
In fact, not doing it could result in a civil rights claim against the township. It's quite the opposite, in fact.
We're not concerned about blind men, like I said. We're concerned about what it could turn into.
Well, it would be deed restricted.
30-year deed restriction on property.
So there is a
There
restriction.
is, yes, there will be a recorded deed restriction restricting it for a 30-year period. And then that 30-year period, typically what happens is when these controls, they're called affordability controls, it's deed restricted for a 30-year period. And it has to be because of the financing that they receive to build the thing as part of the mortgage. You know, they can't build it without that restriction. And then usually upon the end of those restrictions after 30 years, then they come up for renewal, and most of the time, the township seeks to renew them. And as do the entities, whoever they may be, whether it's a nonprofit organization or another developer or an individual homeowner, because they can't profit from the property if they were subjected to that restriction in the first place, so usually they maintain it. So you can't buy an affordable unit, let's say, and then later on profit from the price you got it for later on. That's against the law, so people usually maintain a
I should also point out
restriction.
too that there are already about 7 or 8 of these facilities throughout the township. I challenge anybody to tell me if they know where they are, because they blend in with the neighborhood. They haven't been problems, and that's the whole purpose of it. They're supposed to blend into the neighborhood. They're supposed to become part of the community.
We
That's
know
what we're
where
trying to
some of
do.
them are. We know they're not a problem. Like I said, we're worried
That's what
about
we're trying to do.
what they could turn into.
There's a 30-year restriction.
Yeah,
And if you're
That's the
saying
case-
that,
that's the case
that
law.
answers
That's the
my
law,
question.
yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Bob Rath, I was 19 Unity Court. I've been in Middletown for 50 years. My question is, with these homes back there, I've already been assessed twice, okay? The value of my house went down, my taxes went up. Tony, you and I spoke about that already a couple times. I have 3 foster kids that I've had for a while. I have 2 grandkids, okay? And we have dirt roads back there. Everybody back there knows each other's kids. We've seen them grow up, and we got the smaller kids back there. Once before, about 15, 16 years ago, the township trying to put low-income housing back there. And what they told us, they want to put 4 houses back there and a playground for the kids, so forth and so on. And we fought it. It didn't happen. We still didn't get the property. We never got any playgrounds or anything for the kids. Everything's been the same. Okay? Like they said, we have no lights back there. I complained to the police officers plenty of times about the drug problem. Matter of fact, I had my neighbor stop me from going over there with a baseball bat. Okay? Now, I know nobody here wants that in your neighborhood. I don't want it in mine either. There have been police back there, okay? And let me make that perfectly clear. All right? And on the street that I'm on, anytime I see cars that I don't know, I go out there and I look. If it's the police, they give me a little flash. So we're working together. But why does it have to be on Unity Code? I mean, if I want to sell my house after that goes up there, will I be able to sell it?
Why wouldn't you be able to sell? Why wouldn't you be able to
Excuse me?
Why wouldn't you be able to sell?
Who would want to buy a house? Would you? You would do that.
With visually, you're saying, would I want to buy a house or would I not be in the market if I knew that there was a visually impaired resident in the neighborhood? No, that wouldn't have any impact on me. I wouldn't discriminate against that person, no.
Well, I'm not discriminating either.
Well, you're
But
saying
I
that
just
people
want the
would.
same quality of life as everybody else.
We all deal with, listen, I get it. We all get it. And we all deal, Lincroft, you mentioned, the previous person said, Lincroft, they have, everybody, we understand. I get it. Every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood deals with their issue. I deal with people coming in and out of Middletown South, 70 miles an hour on my road. I'm sure Mr. Massell deals with issues in his neighborhood. And I know, Mr. Scharpenberger deals with issues in his neighborhood. I mean, we get it, but it's hard from a governing body perspective to take a look and say, is this going to be something that you can't sell your house when you're dealing under the law here that we really have very little leeway and latitude. I mean, I can't make a decision based on a preposition that I can't, I don't know what else is in your neighborhood that can have an impact that's over this. You're telling me, there's no lights, there's no playground.
Down there with mosquitoes.
Right. Again, it's, every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood has their pros and cons. Mine has its pros, mine has its cons. I mean, we can go through, there's not one neighborhood that does it. I mean, it's hard to make a decision based on what you just asked.
You go around Middletown, you see all these different parks named after all these people. Why don't they take that property and put a park over there saying Duffy Fisher Park? Everybody in Middletown is Duffy Fisher. Why don't you put a park over there?
So we're getting a little bit of a feel from the ordinance.
You know what? I think a dead horse.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to this ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I heard is...
Sir, just come up to the mic so everything is recorded.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Arthur Watkins. I live in Gilville Lane. I've been there 30 years. And the question I've asked is, the township owns this property you're talking about, right?
Correct.
So you have a choice whether you can do this or not. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to this ordinance?
I'm sorry, what was your name?
I'd like to know what's your plans on if you do this. We hope that you don't. To widen the road, because years ago the road used to be farther away from my house. Right now it's 3.5 feet from the corner of my house around the turn. I have to drive through almost. It's not funny. Because I had plenty of room, except one of my neighbors wanted to build a house. He was willing to deed the property over to the township, so I wouldn't have that, and they said no. And he had to pay to have the road moved. So, I can't afford to give up, my laundry room to have people driving through it. So take that into consideration too.
Thank you.
My name is Ellie Scarbo, 6 Unity Court. Tony knows me, and people on the board know me. Of course, my husband and I are very upset because this is the second time this is happening. We took the hit. We love our neighbors, so we're grateful that it all worked out. But again, you have to answer my husband's question. As far as what are you going to do about the road? Are you just going to plow through our front yard? We've had to fight for everything in that area. Don't tell me you know how it is, because it's not the same as living over my Middletown South. It's not. We've had to fight for mail delivery. We got Steve Dietrich from the Asbury Park Press to come in. And then finally, they paid attention. When we want to get the roads paved or graded, we have 3 township public works employees. Nobody listens to them. We have to pull up and complain about the ruts in the road. We have to fight for everything in this
My
industry.
point was every neighborhood has,
I wouldn't say that yours is.
I would say every neighborhood has its issues.
Well,
You don't deal what I deal with at 7 a.m., do you? No, so every neighborhood has.
Well, you don't have a drug dealer on your block, do you?
Well, then that's something you should call the police.
We have called the police.
Okay.
I brought paraphernalia that I picked up off the ground, but we can't do anything. I've called the police. My brother's a policeman. It's just, they're gonna guess it to death because it doesn't affect you. You don't care.
Oh, I don't care.
I don't think you do.
Oh, I don't care.
It's, you have to look at the whole picture and see who you're affecting. And you can say what you want about not steering, but there's a big coincidence here. And actually, just so you know, this whole affordable housing thing, it isn't as rosy as a picture as a painting. Because I talked to an 80-year-old woman at a doctor's office who lives in Tommaso Plaza, and you stuck some younger, mentally ill people in there, and she is afraid. She's threatened. We're so afraid to leave our apartments. Is that what you want to be thought of? Saving a couple of bucks at the risk of, it's the truth.
Stick anybody in there.
It's the
There's
truth.
guidelines, and there's federal guidelines under Section 8 and other guidelines.
Well,
we can get into.
exactly. We don't want to end up with Section 8, just like we don't want to end up with the guy who stabbed somebody over Bed Bath & Beyond. We don't want that. We figure you're going to say, we're going to distinct blind and disabled, read mentally ill, and then you're going to stick it to us because it's not your children you're worried about.
Well,
And then when it comes down to it...
Hold on, let's get real for a second.
I am
okay?
getting real.
The original time that this area was going to be, was proposed to be included in the housing plan, there were going to be 4 lots, 4 houses, each 2-family houses.
Right,
8 units.
Board of Housing
all-
Trent didn't want it.
Don't interrupt, because that's not true, okay? That's absolutely not true, so I don't know where you heard that.
I spoke with him, remember?
Well, I don't know who you spoke to, but that's not true.
Okay.
Okay? But ultimately, the town determined it did not want to develop that site in that way. If we wanted to, we could have, would have, could have been done. Okay? So it was decided we would take that out, completely out of our affordable housing program. And we have taken it out. But, so what we decided to do was simply sell the lots and let people build houses on them like anyone could build a house on them. So they could have new houses in the neighborhood. That's what you're going to have. You're going to have 4 new houses with a paved road. Now, one of those houses is going to be a group home. As I said before, someone could buy your house and turn it into one tomorrow, and nobody could do anything about it.
I doubt the chance of my selling my house would be too great after you do what you do. And what about the house on Chestnut Street and the house on...
We're talking about this subdivision,
same kind of thing.
we're talking about this property and this situation. And all I'm telling you is that what you're getting is 4 houses. That's what you're getting. And
I'm saying, I know I've heard of people on Powell Street in Port Monmouth, what's the street in Port Monmouth? What is it? There's a street in Port Monmouth that you rehab for your affordable housing and there's mentally ill people living there. That's the okay. Right. That's what people that live there, but they're going to lie. They live right next door. They're going to lie about it. I'm just saying, look at the whole picture.
yeah, they're right.
No, actually, the email that came through today was that we were putting mentally ill people in there, and obviously it was not mentally ill people, so you have to be very cognizant.
So we come back in 2 years from now or 4 years from now, you're going to say, we can do whatever we want to it. Is that just not
I didn't know. Where are you failing to understand the 3 times that were said about 30-year deed restriction on this specific site, this specific issue?
But isn't it the same thing about changing the zone without telling anybody?
We'd have, if we got rid of the deed restriction, you'd have to come back before the board, and the board would have to vote again to get rid of the deed restriction. I promise you'd be standing right there saying, you promised not to get rid of this deed restriction, wouldn't you? And you should be, at that point. But so, I mean, we just can't make the change like you're asserting that we can. There's a restriction.
Like I said, the zoning was changed on our block, and I heard about it through the grapevine. People, some of my neighbors have to pick it up in the newspaper. Just like I feel if this wasn't really adequately publicized, somebody picked it up in the 2 River Times. Why is that?
Because it's not a zoning change. Right. It's literally somebody's buying a house.
The zoning was changed.
Years ago. Many years ago. In 1994.
And why would you ever put it in the Asbury Park Press, which is more like...
It didn't even come with a reorganization.
When? In 1994?
No, talking about currently.
Again,
there's nothing to advertise.
The public notice about it being voted on today, and also having a chance to speak about it.
Ordinance. This is just an ordinance to transfer title of lot from one person, from the township to another person. It's not a zoning issue. It's not a zoning change. Nothing's changing. We could be selling this to anyone.
Zoning change. Aside from that, we didn't see it in any regular paper. It was in the 2 River Times that my neighbors were subscribe to deliberately for this type of a thing. So they just pick up on the fact you're going to try to, put it out there without anybody knowing, and you can people will know it's covered.
This was introduced, too, at an earlier meeting, so this has been advertised on the website. I mean, this stuff is there, publicly noticed.
We don't just notice to the Two River Times. I think the clerk puts notice to Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times. No, I mean, who do you?
No, the requirements of the law are that we do paid advertising.
Paid advertisement, okay.
We can do it to a newspaper.
The meeting notices go to all the papers, paid advertisement.
But this particular public ordinance or whatever was not advertised in the Asbury Park Press. That's my point.
No, that's not a requirement of the law.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Thomas Gemilaro, 7 Unity Court, Middletown.
What's your last name?
Gemilaro. I think most of my neighbors are upset because when I first started surveying, I went down to the town and I spoke with Mr. Mercante. I'm probably saying it wrong. And he had told me that they were just going to be selling to private builders to put up 4 houses. It was nothing about low income, disabled, and or blind. So I think that's one of the main reasons why they're upset. My question to you is it possible that you pay another town or another city, like some of the other towns have done, to take this off?
No, they stopped that.
They stopped that several years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're with you as far as the COLA quotas. I've been on TV, given interviews on radio. Mayor Fiore at the time, the same thing. Now we're involved in a lawsuit. So we are fighting this tooth and nail. But while the quota exists, and we're under the gun here, we're pretty well stuck. So we're as frustrated as anybody with this.
Will there only be one family living in that house? Or is it multiple? Or
It'll be individuals. Four bedroom house.
Okay, so up to 4 individuals?
I don't know the number. There's a state regulation on how many people will be able to occupy.
Also, the problem with the property and the road, the main issue is a fire truck cannot turn down on our block. I know they can turn at the end of the block where you put a cord in, but they cannot swing the turn. That's why there's no fire hydrant on our block. Our houses could be reached from the back street, Berkeley, where there's a fire hydrant. But the actual fire truck cannot make it down that block unless it goes through my neighbor's living room. So just something to think about.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to this ordinance? Seeing no further members of the public come forward? Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate it. I just have a question concerning the restriction. What is the nature of that restriction and how could it be changed in the sense that we're talking about 4-bedroom home for the purposes of blind individuals? Could that be changed to something else in that 30-year restriction?
Anything to be changed would be difficult for a number of reasons. Well, one, any change to any deed restriction for affordable housing would have to be approved by another ordinance of the Township Committee. Also, there's, in all likelihood, the organization that would be developing this house, there'll be financing tied to that restriction being worded in a certain way. So in order to even attempt to do that, they would probably have to buy out cash, whatever financing they have from the government or other organizations that receive that funding on the condition that that restriction be in place. So is it technically legally possible? Sure. Is it likely? Very unlikely because of those issues.
Financial issues associated.
Yeah, financial and the committee, which the township would also have to resolve.
So the restriction is designed for blind residents.
Yeah.
Visually.
Visually impaired.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3077? Seeing no members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing, we have 2013-3078. An ordinance authorizing the vacation of a portion of Devonshire Court within the Township of Middletown, Monmouth County, New Jersey.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3078? Seeing no members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing, 2013-3079, an ordinance accepting the dedication of a portion of Sunnyside Road as part of the municipal road system of the Township of Middletown.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance 2013-3079? Yes, sir.
Leo Christopher, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza. Is this property an unentailed grant, excluding the, I guess, the transfer cost that the recipient of the property will pay? Is this an
unentailed grant?
Yeah, is there... Did you sell this property, or is it a grant?
Let me explain that.
Okay.
This is it's a realignment of the roadway in Van Hollow. I don't know if you're familiar with where the former country club was. The entire property is being developed as a approved subdivision there for single-family homes, which is one of the COA sites that was a COA site. They wanted to build thousands of COA units there before. There was a settlement through litigation. This is one of the cleanup matters from that, where the township is acquiring 100 acres of property, dedicated open space, or dedicated property to the municipality from the site. And this is just one minor component of the realignment of the roadway, which was part of the agreement, that if they built the homes in there, it's a very abrupt turn. So they're just literally, it's an equal transfer of just moving the road over a little bit.
So it's bartering's involved, land for land.
There's no
land for land.
No cost. It's just land for land effectively. We're changing our right, we're just realigning our right away effectively is literally what it is.
They're giving you 5 acres of theirs and you're giving them 5 acres of yours. So
Much smaller.
Much smaller, but effectively the principle, yeah, they're just smoothing the curve in the road.
I'm satisfied. I was wondering if we were just giving land away.
No, in fact, we're getting 100 acres out.
If I had land, I'd sell it. You know what I mean? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance 2013-3079? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing, 2013-3080, an ordinance authorizing the vacation of a portion of Sunnyside Road within the Township of Middletown, Monmouth County, New Jersey.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3080? Seeing no members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpberger.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing is ordinance 2013-3081, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2009-2991, authorizing developers agreement and conveyance of township-owned parcel for affordable housing upon block 724, lot 1.
Are Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to ordinance number 2013-3081? Seeing no members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adoption.
Second. Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on second and final reading. Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have an ordinance for introduction, 2013-3082. An ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Middletown, County of Monmouth, amending Chapter 16, Planning and Development Regulations.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Move for introduction, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a little rusty now in person.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes with comment.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce this ordinance on first reading with public hearing to be held February 19, 2013.
Yes, I'm sorry. Committeeman Fiore.
I'm voting to introduce this ordinance, and so long as the ordinance does not change so much with respect to these new FEMA maps, this ordinance introduction takes into effect the new FEMA map height requirements and height guidelines. That is something that I believe is a prudent thing for the township to pass, being that conformance to these new height standards and guidelines are going to be critical to the rebuilding process post Hurricane Sandy. I am not, just to be clear, this ordinance does not make the change that I know has been bounced around with respect to coastal A standards, which some of our township is now, I believe, going to be under coastal A, to have to build to B-zone standards, which are much more restricted standards for rebuild. Being that this ordinance does not include that preface and that requirement, I'll support this ordinance, and so long as there's no changes with that, I think it's a very prudent ordinance to adopt the height standards at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 13-58 through 13-77, including bingo and raffle applications and volunteer firefighter applications.
Hey, could you please hold 1375?
So consent agenda would include resolutions 13-58 through 13-77 with bingo and raffle applications and volunteer firefighter applications, and removing 13-75.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt the consent agenda. Our next resolution for adoption is Resolution 13-57, a resolution authorizing payment of bills for January 2013.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-57. This time we have 13-75, a resolution authorizing execution of a deed of conservation easement and right of way, I believe, block 1049, lot 15.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Massell.
Abstain?
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Committeeman Fiore.
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharpler.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt Resolution 13-75 with abstention noted. Do you have Township Committee comments?
Mr. Massell.
I'll be very brief. I just want to welcome our new mayor and deputy mayor. I know we're in good hands. We had a great year, 2013. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Massell. Committeeman Fiore.
I echo the Mr. Purcell's comments to it's going to take a little while before I stop calling deputy mayor. His comments to the new mayor and deputy mayor who I look forward to serving with. in your leadership this year. Just one thing I just want to mention is just a thank you to the community and to the volunteers, especially the donor for the Better Education Institute of New Jersey, which was so gracious through the Middletown Disaster Relief Fund and was able to distribute a little over 800 of gift cards, $100 gift cards to the most affected areas of our township post Superstorm Sandy. I look forward to continuing to work with organizations that will help to bring relief to our residents who are just about to begin the rebuilding process. Hopefully that federal money will make it down here, although I believe the Senate held it up a little bit today, from what I understand, for reasons unbeknownst to me. But it's my hope that that will start to come through and that we can start the mitigation and rebuild process, and that the Disaster Relief Fund, through the generosity of the community and other donors who are been so benevolent to from all across the country and throughout the state, will help us to help those in need in the rebuilding process, to replace some of the things that are so dear to them in their houses, in their homes. That's all I have to see this evening, and looking forward to a great year, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Thank you. Mr. Senabrino.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will continue on the comments and certainly congratulate you and the Deputy Mayor. Looking forward to a good year. I do want to take a step back with regard to the ordinance, the planning and development regulations that Committeeman Fiore made comments on. And just so that everyone understands, this is the first, I should not say the first, this is one of many steps that township will make to continue to move the development of the Bay Shore along as quickly as possible, but protect the residents from any undue burdens or undue requirements of the state and or the federal government. We're going to be watching for that as things move along. It's important that this ordinance is only on introduction, and we're going to investigate it as it moves towards a potential second reading. We want to make certain that as we look at all the requirements for rebuilding, that they don't place an undue burden on the residents themselves. That's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Murray.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for the re-welcoming, and I'm very much looking forward to helping our mayor out this year. Very briefly, yesterday we had a resident help us set up an info session with H&R Block to talk about the impact of Superstorm Sandy on people's federal income taxes. And I believe there were close to 100 people that went through there, and they were very helpful. They gave out numbers to call, documents, how to do your deductions and stuff like that. Was very helpful. They've been, H&R Block's been giving them around different towns that were affected by the storm. And I believe they're doing another one if anybody's interested in Long Branch. They're saying it's for Long Branch, but anybody could go. It's at Brookdale next Thursday. So just keep that in mind if anybody needs to talk to them. They're very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few things. Committeeman Fiore had mentioned the $100 Target gift cards that we distributed a week and a half ago, and it was really something to see, and it really is very heartwarming to see a fellow with of such means really step up and share his wealth to help other people who are in need. It was orderly. It was it was just a great day, and people were very appreciative of getting this, receiving this generosity from this man, and it was really something to see. After that, I went to another event called the Circle of Friends, which is an organization devoted to young adults with physical and mental disabilities. And it was sort of a dance, they had a DJ, they had food, and it was really something to see. I know a lot of these kids because they've been coming through the Special Olympics. We give them proclamations, and it really warms your heart. You talk about walking into a room and seeing you can't see any happier kids in the world. And it really was nice. But I think the thing that got to me most was the volunteers from High School South that were there. I mean, these are young teenagers, and teenagers sometimes get a bad rap for being, you know, aloof and sort of detached from the world around them. It was good to see these kids give up their Sunday afternoon to make these other kids so happy. It was really something to see. Another thing I wanted to just mention, and to remind everybody, if you haven't done so, is to sign up for the text alerts. I was in the bagel shop on Sunday, and 3 people came up to me saying how great the text alerts were during the storm. So that's a testament, number one, to how long the line was in the bagel store, but also to how many people utilize that. It really is a great system, and it kept everybody informed, even if you didn't have electric power to your own home. So it is a great thing. I think we're up over 10,000. Heidi, you know offhand?
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, it's over 10,000, I believe, way over now. So a great thing. And the last thing I want to just point out, and the subject came up before about COA. This has been a long-standing issue with Middletown here, and I've been on the Township Committee. I guess I'm the grizzled old veteran here, and since I've been on, we've had to fight these housing quotas, and they are every bit as brutal and unfair as we have painted it, whether through an editorial or a letter to the editor. Very difficult. It costs the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars to subsidize these houses all over the state. So keep in mind when somebody tells you, gee, New Jersey has the highest property taxes. Well, that money's got to come from somewhere. And unfortunately, the governor's judicial picks either languish or they don't get appointed. And that's really our only hope to start to undo the logjam that we're seeing now in Trenton. So I'm hoping that everybody would get involved, write their legislators, say, number one, you want to see these judges appointed, but number two, you want some relief for a town that really is being punished for not doing having done anything wrong. And I'll let it go with that, and we'll open it up for public comments. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're faster than Leo. So, one thing I want to just point out: if you give your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes, and I will ask you at 5 minutes to please sit down. In fairness, everybody else is here. Who's here? If you have further questions or comments, we'd be happy to stay around afterwards and speak, more in depth. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Michelle Pitzer, 651 Monmouth Avenue in Port Monmouth. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much. I just wanted to acknowledge that the gift card was, very much appreciated. Having said that, being a displaced person from Port Monmouth, living in one room right now for the past 3 months with my family of 4, my 2 dogs, my cat. It was very helpful. However, it doesn't really touch what we really need to do, which is to get back home. You may know my house. It is the one that is hanging from the sky in Port Monmouth.
I do know.
One of the ones that has been raised, but, or I should use the word elevated to be clear. However, there is no money to put it back down. My insurance check has bounced, and I'm working with the company to get money released for the internal repairs. However, the ICC money, as you all may know, will not be forthcoming until after the cost is incurred on, putting the house back down. We've been laying out whatever money we have had given to us by family and things that we had in savings up till this point to just get things to the point that they are now. But we are tapped out. And my husband being a social worker, working 3 jobs, myself being a stay-at-home mom, dealing with all this, it's been very challenging. My question is, about a month ago after the township meeting, I had the pleasure of speaking with some individuals from the town, from the planning board, from the buildings department, and I was told that I really should build to Zone V, just off the record, I really should build to Zone V because down the line I'm going to need to do that anyway. So I went ahead and I got an engineer's report for $4,000 out of my pocket, which told me how I needed to do that. I gave it to the mason, and the mason explained to me that this was going to be cost prohibitive, and he didn't really think I was going to be able to pull this off monetarily, which is the truth. Thankfully, I was told by the buildings department subsequent to that I really didn't need to build to Zone B, and now they're going to allow us to build to Zone A. but I still don't have anything in writing to that effect. And as you were all indicating, it's going to be some time before there is anything solidified in terms of that. And in the meantime, I'm still waiting to know what to do. I need something, some kind of guidance. I'm signing contracts, I'm spending money I don't have, and I'm homeless. So I just would like to ask for some guidance with that, and if you could please have some kind of a meeting or something for those of us who are in the situation that, you know, we really don't know what the right thing to do is.
I'm going to turn over to Mr. Mercantante. I just want to say one thing. Every Friday, we have a meeting with the governor's staff, and we go over these kind of things. So this is, number one, good for us to know what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis in the here and now. I think everybody is sort of waiting for direction, and you go up the chain. You know, you go from the county to the state to the feds. And now that the funding has been approved in Congress, that's one piece of the puzzle there. You know, so we're hoping we'll get some movement. We're going to be speaking again Friday. I'm going to mention you specifically to the governor's folks, and there's different agencies in the room there on the call. So, you know, we have a captive audience for some of the folks who can maybe shake this out. And I believe, wasn't there somebody from the Storm Czar or Mark Furzon's office on there at one of the calls? So that's really the key guy to get to the governor. And the state has been very good, very, you know, approachable. And they're sort of like we are on a bigger scale with having to fight with somebody higher up. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Mercantante for more specifics.
Well, the reason we haven't had another meeting, public meeting like we had the last time, is because we would have been saying a lot of, well, we're not sure. And so we didn't really want to further frustrate people. But we were having this conversation with the governor's office last week. Middletown, as you see, we introduced ordinance tonight to deal with the ABFA issues. And we actually got an email from FEMA late last week saying, oh, you know what, we don't think town should do this now. Even after all along we've been saying you should do this, last minute they said, we don't think you should. But the reason was because they understand, and we were told this, we confirmed this on Friday, that the governor, or I should say the state, is going to be implementing standards statewide. So rather than have the base flood elevation have to be advisory, the state was going to sort of take charge and say, we're going to establish the standards and they're going to apply statewide, which is actually a good thing that happens. And we were pretty well assured it was happening this week. So if that happens, first of all, we won't even really need that ordinance anymore. We need to do some other things with the ordinance that's not dealing with elevation. If that happens, we will then schedule another community meeting, because now we'll know. Now we'll have the answers to what the elevation. We'll have a definite answer on this V-zone issue. They're right that you probably don't need to do that. We were concerned that the state might adopt that statewide, which would have been bad. So I don't think that they're going to do that. We kind of warned them that if they do that, that would really devastate way too many people, not just in Middletown, but throughout the state. So it sounds like they're not going to do that. But again, until we see what they release this week, we don't know for sure. But we will be having another meeting, and once we have real answers for people.
Okay.
So your house will be up in there for a while.
Right, right. Okay. So just to clarify, if the state does not adopt the V-zone issue,
yes,
then even if the federal government does, where I'll be okay if I have bills as I.
Right, because the federal government at this point is only telling municipalities it's an advisory. So that particular V-zone issue, and while I can't speak to the Township Committee, I'm not going to suggest we do that. It would just be too onerous for people.
That's why I made those comments. I won't vote for V-zone standards on an A-zone premise because I don't believe in my meetings with FEMA, knowing insurance, that that's going to provide any real relief for elevation versus standards. But that I might be wrong on that. I mean, everybody's guessing at this point. But to the administrator's point is, you know, we're going to adopt the elevation because the elevations are, you know, I mean, that is going to have, in my opinion, a very big impact on flood insurance going forward, too. And, you know, if you get a $15,000 flood insurance bill, which is 3 times the amount of your tax bill, that's going to be unaffordable. So I think the township has the obligation to, at minimum, you know, take the advisory base flood elevations that they're going to use for insurance purposes and tell you, you know, you need to be 1 foot above those elevations for your own protection. You know, there's some towns that are rebuilding, and I think people are going to get whipsawed, and that's unfortunate because, you know, they move the process too quick. The government, as Mr. Mercantante and the mayor's mentioned, are moving, you know, changing the target. We get an email last week saying, don't approve our maps. I mean, it's just, it's scary, but only the state now can force you to apply a B zone standard and A zone, but I won't go along with that unless the state forces it.
Okay, and just one last quick thing, but it's important. The Middletown Disaster Relief Fund, I'm hoping there will be an application process.
There will. I'm actually, that's separate from the township. I'm on that fund. It's a fund that I started as mayor last year. There's other people that are on board. We have a meeting coming up, not next week, but the first week of February. We're going to have an application that I have to put through the board to approve, to put on the website to start that. I will say though, the one thing I will caution, unless the board chooses otherwise, is part of the fundraising mechanism has been to raise funds to help supply things that are not covered under insurance. I mean, I do not believe that the fund is going to be giving out cash in terms of, you know, ways to do that. I don't think that would be prudent for the fund, but as you're rebuilding, clearly there are things that were either depreciated or not covered that hopefully will be able to make a difference for residents like yourself.
Well, truly, please consider the fact that, you know, the ICC money is only up to $30,000.
No, I understand. Believe me, I'm dealing with it in some capacity myself.
Okay. Okay, and yeah, if there's anything that even can be loaned or, you know, granted.
I don't think that not-for-profit can't really do a loan, but, you know, I will talk to the board about
to help us get moving forward.
Yeah, there will be a form.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leo, you're up. I'm sorry, Leo. Leo was quick on the draw before, so.
Here, respectfully, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza, Middletown. I attended the most recent board of the Middletown Library. I think Mercantante was there. Stephanie Murray has been replaced, but there's other new people that are appointed by this committee. And twice I have spoken to the board and repeated the same thing. Now, I guess this is a more serious step. I'm asking that this committee give serious thought and discussion in or outside of executive sessions as to fashioning a resolution that would be addressed to the freeholders of the county, who would send it, I assume, through the library, the Monmouth County Library liaison, freeholder at Lillian Bury, to the Monmouth County Library Commission, and the resolution finally reaching the Monmouth County Library Commission would, in effect, cause I assume, a feasibility study as to whether or not the main library and the 3 branch libraries in Middletown Township should be incorporated in any broad or strict sense of that word into the Monmouth County library system, knowing that this has to go through a referendum, so you folks are off the hook as far as any future election. Now you're giving it up to the public.
Never off the hook.
But the other stipulation, which when I explain myself, at this point seems to get missed. If the feasibility study said we could have the Middletown Main Library as a branch library and maintain the current 3 satellite branch libraries as member libraries of the Monmouth County library system. One's a branch, 3 others are members. There's a difference. And the stipulation is that if we can be told that such a transaction satisfied through a referendum can save this township $500,000, I would think that would be a significant reason to cause me, where I am a member of this governing body, to fashion such a resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leo.
I'm Jim Massett. I live at 127 McCutcheon Court. I'm here on behalf of my daughter who lives on 2 Highlands Avenue, and some of my neighbors also. They're not only victims of the Hurricane Sandy, but they're also victims of the Wagner Creek. Wagner Creek that runs behind the houses on Highland Avenue, okay, has superseded its capacity for any reasonable drainage. The creek itself is filled up with silts and trees, and I actually talked to the township engineer about this, and he basically concurs with basically what I'm saying, and the creek itself needs to be dredged. And that right now is only a partial solution to some of the flooding that has taken place in all these residents' yards, okay? It's actually made the yards uninhabitable, okay? Unhealthy for families with children. And I would like to ask the town council to pursue with both the state and shall we say, at a federal level, to properly dispose of the silts presently in the creek, okay, as a temporary measure, but also to seek a permanent solution. The runoff that's running into that creek is not just rain runoff, okay, there is drainage that is going into that creek that supersedes any reasonable volume of water discharge. Okay. That said, I would like to find out what the township can do and what measures you would take to spearhead some sort of a solution on it. And one last item: between the recent rains and the damage from Sandy, the bulkheads that were behind those yards are either undermined and/or non-existent.
Thank you. In fact, you came into my office last week. Yeah, I had spoken to, or I put together a little memorandum for Mr. Nelson, Mr. Maloney, and Mr. Mercantante, excuse me, who are more familiar with this whole project and the issue. And it's not an easy fix. I think that's everybody's, conclusion. And it's got to go up to the feds too. Because anything like that, a Category 1 waterway like that, that's Army Corps permits and you funding through the feds. But I guess they can give you more up to date on where all this stands.
Before, I just want to say before your meeting, we became aware of the issue through some legislators and other folks, so we are aware of it. I know the feds had some direct conversations. So.
Well, I have spoken to, and there's different levels to approaching the problems with that particular creek. There's an overall siltation problem that was made worse by these storms and hurricanes. On a smaller level, the Monmouth County Mosquito Commission, who's assistant director I spoke with today, your site and some other sites, are putting that creek on the list to try to de-silt and de-snag some of the obstructions downstream and upstream from Riddler's property. There is probably going to have to be a bigger effort to de-silt some of the streams that lead down from Middletown to the bay because of the siltation and debris that's fallen into the streams. And we're looking at that as a bigger picture. The other issue you bring up is the bulkheads, I guess behind the property.
Yes, it's behind the property.
Now, those are, and I haven't been out there to look at, I think I might have been out there a long time ago before you brought up the property. Those are private property, and those are up to the homeowners to maintain and to replace, and they're there to eliminate some erosion, which also adds to the siltation of the streams. But once you have retaining walls and bulkheads and things like that eroding, it's incumbent on the property owners to seek permits and replace them. The bridge abutments and the culverts at one of the roads are different. They're either the local municipality or the county. So there are a lot of legs to this problem. The first step I've taken is speaking to the mosquito commission. Hopefully it can address some of the more acute problems out there. And then we'll go beyond that and look at what we can do for a big picture.
Yeah, but then, even before the hurricane, okay, the area was getting flooded just from the heavy rains. So from my understanding and talk to several neighbors, okay, there's not only the actual runoff, there's runoff from the golf course up above that's tied into the drainage system from, I guess, yesteryear that flows into this creek. Okay, I'm an engineer myself, so I understand the drainage design, and I just believe that this creek here is beyond its capacity and was never meant for any other outfall water to be actually shed into the creek itself.
I'll tell you, we're up against the 5-minute limit, but would you be able to stay around and we can talk? Ted is a fountain of knowledge with these sort of creeks. He knows them all too well, I think. So if you can stay a little bit later, we can
All right, thank you very much.
continue. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Kelly Breyer for Cedar Avenue. Originally, I was coming out today to talk to you guys about FEMA flood maps and stuff like that, but you answered a lot of those questions for me. My entire family lives at the end of Cedar Avenue, and we're completely wiped out. So we've been waiting for funding to raise the house. And one of the things that we are encountering is the, like what she's going through, we're out of them. So we're looking for, FEMA says there's something called the Community Development Block Grant that we can apply for through the township. They also said there was something called the STEP grant, which is a $10,000 emergency grant to replace utilities. And some of the stuff we are actually looking at our basement of the house, utilities would be quite useful as opposed to having to run propane heaters and generators. It helps us quite a bit. Middletown Township said that they're not participating in the STEP program grant at this time. And there is, at some point, and I'm asking because I don't really know all the information, a community development block grant list that we're supposed to get on once we submit for substantial damage and go for ICC. It was explained to me that a percentage of that would come back to the township to come towards the homeowners, and then the public sites that got damaged, not just us, but for everybody, and we would be able to get on some kind of a grant list to help us. I personally sit in the B zone, so although they appreciate the A zone, my mother was the A zone, it's not going to affect me. I still have to go up the total number, and right now the estimate to just raise my house exceed the grant. So that's just to shove it in the air. It's not to do utilities, it's not to do the inspections or the foundation repair. I used to fill the piles, is what I've been told. So I am looking at the very real possibility of shutting and moving my entire family.
You know what, we can...
I can answer.
We can answer, you can speak then, but let us answer. Okay.
First of all, FEMA is really great at telling people about these things, but they don't really tell them any details about it. The block grant portion, we do anticipate that at some point there will be block grants. The federal government hasn't even done the rules and regulations for how that's going to work yet. We don't know how much we're going to be getting and what the eligible projects for that are going to be. Yes, there will be some, we've been told there will be block grant monies available to communities. We have no idea what the rules and regulations will be about it. STEP program, is a program that virtually nobody's participating in, and I can tell you why. The STEP program was a program that was very limited, and it was only to allow people to replace a furnace or a water heater and move back into their house. So if your house was substantially damaged, you weren't even eligible for the STEP program, because it was really intended for the houses that were just slightly damaged and just needed a couple things done to be able to move back in, so that those people weren't taking up alternate housing like hotels and other rentals. So STEP program really didn't work for very, very many people, and it was not a useful program. The other thing you're referring to, they're probably referring to hazard mitigation grant program. We have been, the state will be getting an allocation from the federal government. We don't know how much the amount is yet, but some percentage of the overall, 15% of the overall amount of money that is allocated to the state goes into this hazard mitigation gigantic pot. And again, until we know how much is going to be available, we don't even know what sorts of programs we'll be able to implement. You can use it for raising of houses, you can use it for purchasing of properties, which I think is the least likely use of the money. And you can use it for flood control projects like repairing dunes or repairing bulkheads, things that actually do flood control. So that money, I had a conversation with the legislator's office today, 6 to 12 months is the earliest any of that money is likely to be available. So those hazard mitigation monies are long-term. They're only going to work for people who can wait that length of time. If you can't wait that length of time, it's not going to work for you. The money's not going to be available. And I think if it was 6 months, it would be a miracle. So it'll probably be more than that. That's where we are with those things. There's no quick solution for people who are out of their houses right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Joyce Breyer. I live at 403 Cedar Avenue, across the street from my stepdaughter Kelly. And I'm kind of new to the town. I'm also retired, and I've been fortunate enough to find a temporary place to stay here. And as a retired person, I want to offer to do anything I can to help the committee and the town to work through some of these things. We're fighting for our lives.
There's actually, we do have a volunteer corps that I know that we can get you some information on that is helping out the community in that perspective. One of the things I did speak to gentleman, Mr. Tepper, who was kind enough to make the donation to the relief fund, is actually on the board of the Robin Hood Foundation. One of the things that Mr. Tepper said that the goals of the Robin Hood Foundation was to actually get legal resources to residents to be able to work through this process, because it's a very confusing process, a very arduous process dealing with insurance companies and the whole mitigation grant programs. And it's my goal to see if we can get some of those resources here from to help out with that perspective, just like, they got H&R Block to do, federal tax implications. I think that would be important. So I'm going to work to try to get that to happen. I can't promise you that I'm going to get it, but I'm going to work to see if we can get those resources. But I think it would be very helpful to answer some of those questions on which direction to move with the federal response.
That would be very helpful, because every day that goes by, there's more money, and really, we are running out of money. We will all be bankrupt soon.
I happened to, just to the administrator's point, when this all went down, I spoke to a mayor in Mississippi, in Gulfport, who dealt with a size town very similar to Middletown, 69,000 people, and spoke to him about, after Katrina, how was the response, and how should the township deal best with FEMA. And his guidance to me was pretty clear. He said, you have to document everything, because the story changes very, very frequently, and the staff changes very, very frequently. And most important, he said, 4 years later, they could come back to you and say, these number of people didn't comply, and you need to get them to comply within 30 days, or we'll raise everybody's insurance rates 3 times, and things of that nature. So unfortunately, we're taking a very conservative approach, because we don't want that to happen. We're learning the lessons of what's happened in previous disasters. It's new for all of us, but the thing that we're learning is that, as Mr. Mercatante said, is the government is a very slow process, and it really took about 12 to 18 months in certain instances in that part of the country to get some of this money out, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it really is, especially in light of
I would envision a very clear decline in your tax base here in the town.
Absolutely, that's what we're...
If it takes that long for us to be able to do anything. We don't have the money to put up. We have properties we can't use.
You're
And again, I spend, thank God I'm retired, I spend most of my time on the phone with FEMA, with the SBA, and with insurance companies. And I'm really good on the phone, but we're still not where we need to be. And I offer to help the committee in any way I can by contacting people, reaching out. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, you should leave your number so we can contact you before we get it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things to keep in mind, as I mentioned to Mrs. Pitzer before, once we know what the requirements are going to be, we will have a public meeting like we did once before, and we always try to have somebody there from FEMA, someone from SBA, someone from flood insurance there, and explain the latest, and then let people ask questions of those people. So.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Hi, Kathy Connolly Oliver from 4 Highland Avenue. My husband just spoke to you recently.
That's right.
I'm just reiterating about the creek. Our house is right on the creek also. And with the storm that just happened recently in December, we flooded again where it came into the home. So the creek has been obviously considerably compromised. So we know that it's, we are displaced, we're out of our home. We know it's going to be a long time. We understand all of this. Our biggest concern is when we do have to raise the house, if this creek is not fixed, when we flood our cars, our safety for our children, we're worried about what's in the water, all these issues. So I just really feel like just laying it out there again, that the creek really needs to be dealt with. And the water. We're really concerned about because I know that there have been some studies about the water that's in the bay, that it's really not even good for you to put your foot in. So I'm just kind of worried about what comes into the yard for the children and for us.
The good news was that Thompson did not have to put any, unlike some sewer authorities up in North Jersey, Thompson did not have to dump anything into the bay. So that was some good news on that.
Our sewer authority here.
Thompson, I'm sorry. Sewer authority. I'm sorry. There are some in here who are enamored with Thompson.
Okay.
I digress. My apologies.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Melanie Elmer. I live on Green Street Terrace in Lincroft. I'm here tonight to discuss the library closure crisis. I think a collaborative approach must be taken in order to move forward for the betterment of the residents and the students.
Melanie, just let me stop you there for a minute. Crisis?
It's a crisis.
Those folks have a crisis. Okay?
It's hard when you follow this. This has happened.
Okay, I just want to point it out. To minimize the word crisis.
Come up with another word, nomenclature. The library closure
situation.
Issue?
Issue.
Okay.
Much better.
Well, I call it a crisis because we have 30 days to try to fix it, and we're scrambling. We're being put in a position to try to come up with a solution. At the last library board meeting, when they decided to close the branches on March 1st, they appointed 3 community representatives for the Lincroft, Bayshore, and Navesink branch libraries to see if a plan can be devised to save the branches. And I'm the representative for Lincroft. As Lincroft Library D transfers to the Board of Education upon closure, I asked Dr. George to have a Board of Ed representative at the meeting that the Finance Committee of the Library Board requested with the 3 representatives and the library director. And he's agreed to be there. Likewise, since the Bayshore branch is owned by the township and the township is directly involved in appointing the library board, I'm asking that a township representative be at this particular meeting as well. Is that possible, that the township can send a representative to this meeting? It's tentative for Monday night, but it's not confirmed.
This coming Monday?
The 28th.
I'll speak to Mr. Mercantante and see if we can have somebody, if it's a good idea. You know, everything we do, just let me finish. Everything we do has to be filtered through the prism of how does this affect us legally. So I'm very loath to commit anything right on the spot here without looking into the ramifications if we have representation there. So, but we will get back to you.
Okay. Dr. George just said he would send someone. He didn't say that was a concern, so I didn't think that would be a concern.
You're sending a board ed memo?
He probably would send the facilities committee person, Amy Gallagher.
She's the business
Administrator, right?
So
She would be in charge.
Mercantante would be that same level.
I'm not really sure. I feel that he's vital to the chargeback calculation, and there's a definite question as to how that affects this whole situation. Are you making the Bayshore Port Monmouth branch into office space? Because I keep hearing that from many people, that people have been down to measure and they've already, the township, since you own the building, you have the right to do that. Is that in the plans?
There are no plans. We've looked at possible options if it does close.
Okay.
But
okay. Well, in that vein, if that is a step that the township is taking, is there any way that the township would consider at your next township committee meeting to bring this issue to light, that people can speak out about it, and we can come together as a community and try to solve this and all parties discuss it?
Well, this is a library board issue. I think that's the forum for it. And actually, you're speaking out now, so anybody who's interested in the library can speak out now.
I guess what it is the library board put this on the public, and it's really their job to come up with a solution. And they didn't try very hard to come up with that solution, nor did they try very hard to advertise to the public that this was happening. You know, I just feel that there's some information missing, and I just feel that the public needs to get more involved, all the parties at the same table to discuss it.
Yeah, I just want to point out one thing, okay? When we were talking about the difficulties of the swim club, the number one thing that we heard from residents was, why didn't you tell us? Maybe we can come up with a solution. Now the library board is reaching out to the folks who are going to be affected by this. I think that's a prudent thing to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I attended the December 19th library board meeting where this was discussed. You were there, Ms. Elmore.
Christmas.
Were you there?
I was there.
Okay, thank you. So let me just address the mayor to that concern. I believe at that meeting it was vitally discussed by the library board that the reason that they were deciding that closing the branches may be a prudent measure in 2013 was not because they didn't have surplus to keep the branches open.
I know that.
But because they, in their view, and I think it was board member Monahan who made this point, the director had made this recommendation that she did not want to utilize that surplus to keep the branch system open.
Okay.
Let me finish. She didn't want to utilize that.
5 minutes, so I really want to get another point in, and then
okay, I'll let you get your point in, and then I'm gonna, and I will brief
the
public.
Well, let me say this.
Quickly, Melvin, we're reaching.
Okay. The key to the libraries keeping the branches open is in the chargebacks. I really feel that the township has been punitive in the chargebacks, and I have looked at these numbers. I have really tried to keep an open mind. But I just can't get past them. And I feel that if we're going to lose 3 branches, this township committee owes it to the public to be completely detailed about how they came up with all those figures in the chargeback.
They have been detailed.
No, they have not been. I have asked, and they stare at me. That library board looks at me, and they don't say a word. I said, explain this. I don't understand it.
I met with the finance committee 3 times.
They have not explained it publicly.
Okay, listen.
It's an easy
So
explanation.
I would like, on February 4th, you have a township committee meeting. I believe that we are owed an explanation in detail of how these chargebacks
on the December 19th meeting, it was the library director in her budget presentation who came up with the In her budget that she provides to the library board, for which that time I attended that meeting, it was Director O'Neill who said in her budget she did not believe that the branches should remain open to utilize the over $400,000 surplus that they currently have in the library surplus account, because she believed, as one of the board members also stated, and there was no real objection from anyone who showed up in that library, including many members of the public.
Nobody knew about this. Nobody knew.
May I speak now? I'll let you have your 5 minutes. No, hold on, let me finish. Let me finish a second. At that meeting, the director stated that there was surplus, but that the library branches, in her opinion, should not be parked because she didn't want to utilize that money in the surplus. It was the board member, Mr. Monahan, who very astutely pointed out that the last 3 years, revenue has declined from the state allocation, from the municipal allocation that's done by the valuation of the town, and it was his concern, as it was the director and everyone else on that board, that the allocation could be in jeopardy with valuations going down post-Superstorm Sandy. So to say that the township was being punitive with chargebacks and the library has absolutely, well, you can stand by all you want. I'll stand by the fact that you're wrong. Okay, and I'll stand by the fact that I met with the library committee 3 times. They gave you the answer, Ms. Almengar. They gave you the answer at that meeting to say that those charges were legitimate and right.
Folks, we're going to have to...
How they figured out? And what is the deal?
They went
through it. Knows. We want to know.
Okay,
Ms. Almengar, the fact of the matter is, you know that the library made this decision. You don't like the decision. I don't like the decision. But you can't fault the board that has a surplus that doesn't want to use it because they don't want to cut things at Main Branch. Did you see what just happened in Red Bank? Did you see what just happened in Manasquan? Did you see what just happened in Millburn? This is not a Middletown specific issue. This is the reality based on state valuations, based on state allocations, and all across the whole state of New Jersey.
Folks, we're going to have
One last question.
We're going to have to move on.
Mr. Sedembrino says he was on the board. Prior to Mrs.
No,
Murray, he hasn't said a word, and I really want to know if he feels that the library is an essential service.
It's not fair.
Do you feel that the library is essential?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's fair that you're not bringing up the fact that, again, over the past few years...
Just answer the question, because my 5 minutes is up. Is it an essential service?
This is not an inquisition.
Do you feel it's an essential service? I just want to know what your opinion is.
I'm going to give you the information that you're lacking in today's presentation.
Do you think I'm lacking any information?
You're lacking lots.
No,
okay?
I'm not.
You're lacking the fact that the library board has provided 6% raises. You're lacking the fact that the library board allocation has gone down and salaries have only gone up. You're lacking the fact that all the line items have gone down and salaries have gone up. Now, if you want to talk about boards of the past that have made decisions with regard to funding, you will find that based on 11% user rate for the libraries, the library director herself has noted that those branches shouldn't be open. Okay? So when you talk about all the information, please present it all.
We're going to move on. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. My name is Michael Morazzo. I'm the Executive Director of Housing United Services from Center Avenue, Leonardo. I would like to thank the board for the mayor for your support and candor in answering the very lively discussion on the property for Unity Court. Also, I want to let you know that in the event that any other residents in the future should have concerns, if they can be forwarded to me and I can present my contact information to whomever needs it. So at some point in time in the future, we will be having a public meeting, which we're going to invite the people from the neighborhoods and anyone pretty much from that point in the township who would like to come to talk about our affordable housing project. I'm a little uncertain as to when I can do that. I hope to be able to actually give you a date and so forth, but we're trying to work that out with the federal funding source of HUD. There are some specific rules, as you all know, with other federal things that you deal with. the federal government has a way of making 100 pages into a simple answer. And some things just never make sense. But at any rate, also the issue about whether we would be changing the population in our facility, the money that actually will help us run the facility after construction would be HUD money, and HUD does not allow that. They would completely eliminate our funding immediately. And our restriction, your restriction, deed restriction is 30 years. HUD's restriction for the funding is at least 40, with no limitation as to how long it's for as long as the facility is operating. And since we're bringing people out of these state institutions to developmental centers to live in these two group homes that we're constructing, they need long-time housing. What would we do with them if we close them? You know, it's basically a simple solution from my standpoint. And I also thank you for acknowledging that if a blind person decides to move into a neighborhood somewhere in Middletown, as I did some 40 years ago, that we can do that. Otherwise, I don't know what I would be doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Can I speak once? I'm sorry.
Good evening again. My name is Don Watson from 1 Collinson Drive, and I'd like to present the township a video recording of the last meeting for publication and for public access.
Mr. Watson, I'm going to advise the administrator not to accept your CDs. We had a problem with one of them a few weeks ago when we tried to access it actually, so we'll decline your generous invitation for the CDs. It didn't work and had an issue with our virus software on our computers in the township. So we're not accepting your CD, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
It just limits the public access to these meetings. Just want to put that on the record.
We put whatever we want on the record.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would care to speak? Okay, ma'am.
Linda Bound, 19 May Court, and a few comments. I'll try and get through them quickly. I wasn't going to speak on the library tonight, but I just wanted to make one quick comment. You frequently bring up 6% raises and then stop there without really saying anything more about that contract. Those raises were included in the I want this to be on record. Those raises were included in that contract that ran from, I think, 2007 to 2009. That contract also included a first time in the township contribution of 2% of salary toward health care. 2% was...
So 6%
okay.
year over year?
May I speak? This is public comment. All right, so you failed to mention that typically, and I mean that was the first contract in town to include that contribution on what were fairly low salaries at the time. I didn't want to get into that. I just wanted to mention the 2% contribution toward health care, which at that time no other employees in the township were paying. Let's see.
So there were other raises in the township that meant that...
No one else was contributing toward health care.
Well, that wasn't the question.
May I continue?
That wasn't the question. The question was, were there other raises in the township that were 6% that year?
Or the third, second year?
One of the, if I recall correctly, one of the reasons for that was to bring salaries in line with comparable salaries, or what was felt to be reasonable, to bring them on par for people of that professional level. So listen, may I continue? Because my 5 minutes, you can speak when my 5 minutes is up, but may I finish here?
Whenever you want.
All right, I just want to get that comment about the 2% healthcare contribution.
Sure, so 6%
it is never ever mentioned.
6% raises.
All right, let me continue, please. I have a few other things I wanted to mention. I wasn't going to mention it all, but you brought it up again. A couple things. Resolution number 1374. When a resolution or ordinance refers to an attached exhibit,
I'd like to make a request that the attachment also be posted online, because currently, usually it's just the resolution or ordinance. For example, the resolution number 1374 makes reference to an attached service agreement, which is not posted. So in the future, if you would please post, any attachments so that there's complete information. That was my first comment. The second one was the Trinity lease. You said it was effective March 1st of this year, and a comment was made earlier that the lease, many of the exhibits were not final, at least on the lease that we received, I guess, a few weeks ago. So when will the lease and all of the exhibits be final?
When it's executed.
Well, it's taking effect on March 1st, so
Yes.
is it expected to be final and signed
On March 1st, it will be effective, yes, or they won't be able to get in there on March 1st.
Okay, so that's
And we don't even, you have to realize, Ms. Val, that there are, in this packet, hundreds of pages with the attachments. Hundreds of pages of the attachments that need to be prepared and distributed in advance of the meeting, of course, giving us somewhere in the ballpark of a week, if that sometimes, to get all this material together to the clerk to be distributed first to the committee members, so they have this.
Talking about Trinity?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about everything. You made a couple of comments about attachments and things, so I just want you to.
Well, if they're available.
I just want you to understand that some of the stuff isn't always readily available, some of it's still in progress up until the meetings and,
Let me
still
put it this
subject
way,
to.
when it is, if it's not available before the meeting.
I just want to
But when it is
understanding,
available,
it's
if it could be
difficult.
posted. Okay, well, at some point it is going to be final and available, and if you could be posted online at that time. When they're available, we can post them. The attachments to the ordinances, yeah? Okay.
Okay, we're gonna have to wrap up here, we're up to a minute.
Okay, well, you allowed other people to speak more than 5 minutes, so I would like to do it a little bit over. I wanted to ask you about Shadow Lake. There was an...
Ms. Val, you are well over.
Can you speak on Shadow Lake? There was a resolution tonight to reject the bids. I believe the lowest one was approximately $4.8 million, which is over the township's estimate. What is the next step? Plans? What's next? Any thoughts?
The next step is we're going to be meeting with DEP to consider what our options are. We may have the option of negotiating with a low bidder, but it's unlikely that we'll be able to make up the gap. That's a sizable gap. So we're waiting to meet with the DEP to see what they think our options are. Because whatever we do, they have to approve.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there a plan to put it out to bid again? I know that the second round of bids, one that was just...
Unlikely unless we significantly change the scope of the project, make it smaller, and then you have to wonder if it's really worth spending that kind of money for...
Tony, we can continue this after the meeting if we want to get more in detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would care to speak? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, move to close the public portion and move for adjournment.
Second.
Committeeman Massad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray? Yes. Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Schaumburger?
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.